Most people believe that thinking clearly means having more information. They read, scroll, and absorb, yet their minds become more confused than before. Clarity does not come from knowing more. It comes from removing what does not matter. A stoic mind is like a calm lake. When the surface is still, it reflects truth. When disturbed by emotion, everything becomes distorted. Every day we face decisions: what to say, how to act, what to chase. And every day, emotion tries to hijack reason. Anger wants to speak before reflection. Fear wants to run before understanding. Desire wants to choose before thinking. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present." He reminds us that clear thinking is not about predicting everything. It's about meeting every moment with calm logic. When something provokes you, stop for a moment. Ask, is this within my control? If yes, act with purpose. If no, release it. This simple division cuts through confusion like a blade through fog. The Stoics trained this discipline daily. They practiced the view from above, imagining their life from a higher perspective, as if looking down from the sky. From that height, the problems that felt enormous shrink to almost nothing. You realize how many decisions are just reactions to ego, fear, and pride. Seneca said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Most of our bad decisions are born from imaginary fears, not real dangers. A Stoic learns to pause before responding, to breathe, to detach, to see clearly. Clarity begins the moment you stop being ruled by impulse. In that space of silence between stimulus and response lies power. It is the power to choose your reaction, and the quality of your choices defines the quality of your life. When you think clearly, you act with precision. You speak less, but with more weight. You choose not what feels good now, but what will feel right later. You stop being a slave to emotion and become the master of your mind. That is the first step to wisdom, to look within before you act without, to question your own thoughts before trusting them, to choose reason over reaction. This is how the Stoics built unshakable clarity, one thought at a time. Clarity fades when we rush. The faster the world moves, the easier it is to mistake speed for progress. But haste is the enemy of wisdom. A Stoic does not hurry. He acts with deliberate calm. When emotions rise, logic drowns. Your pulse quickens, your breathing shortens, and the mind turns into a battlefield. At that moment, step back. Observe yourself as if you were watching a stranger. This distance breaks the spell of emotion. Epictetus taught, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react that matters." That reaction begins in the gap, the brief pause before the next thought. If you can master that space, you master yourself. Ask simple questions. Is this true? Is this necessary? What will this decision cost me tomorrow? The Stoics believe clarity comes from questioning, not assuming. The mind loves drama. It wants to interpret, exaggerate, and judge. But the wise man waits. He lets events show their true shape before deciding what they mean. When you train your mind to pause, your decisions become cleaner. You start to see through manipulation, through anger, through fear. And suddenly, choices that once felt impossible become obvious. Clarity is not loud, it whispers. It's the quiet voice that says, "Do what is right, not what is easy." And that voice grows stronger every time you listen. In times of chaos, clarity becomes a weapon. When others panic, the Stoic observes. He sees what is happening without being consumed by it. He understands that confusion is contagious, and so is calm. When the crowd runs, he stays still. When the noise grows, he listens deeper. Because he knows, the first step to clear thinking is silence. Without silence, the mind cannot hear reason. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire while facing wars, betrayal, and plague. Yet his writings reveal no chaos in his tone. He wrote with serenity, as if speaking from another world. Why? Because his thoughts were disciplined. He did not allow the world to think for him. Most people let their surroundings dictate their state of mind. The Stoic reverses this. His inner world shapes his outer one. He chooses calm, even when surrounded by storm. He chooses reason, even when others choose rage. You cannot always control the events, but you can always control your interpretation of them. This is where clarity is born, not from perfect circumstances, but from the mastery of perspective. When you hold your peace, you hold your power, and that power is what allows you to make better decisions, even when everything around you seems to fall apart. The Stoics knew that the mind must be trained like a muscle. Clarity does not appear by chance. It is built through daily discipline. You do not wait for peace to find you. You create it through practice. Every morning, remind yourself, today I will meet noise, emotion, and temptation. And every morning, choose to remain calm. That simple awareness becomes your armor. You are prepared before the battle begins. Seneca compared the mind to a city under siege. If you leave the gates open, chaos will rush in. But if you guard your reason, nothing can enslave you. This is mental preparation, the Stoic art of readiness. In moments of confusion, slow down your thoughts. Imagine them as clouds drifting across the sky. You watch them pass, but you don't chase them. This separation gives birth to insight. When you detach from every thought that screams for attention, you begin to see which ones deserve it. That is clarity, the ability to distinguish between noise and truth. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." This means define your principles before the moment of decision, because in chaos, you will fall to the level of your preparation, not rise to the level of your hopes. A Stoic prepares his mind in peace so he can remain unshaken in conflict. He rehearses patience, practices reason, and memorizes wisdom until it becomes instinct. That is how he sees clearly when others cannot. Clear thinking means living with intention. Every decision, big or small, is an opportunity to act with reason instead of impulse. You don't need to change the world to practice Stoic clarity. You need only to control the next moment. When you wake up, decide what deserves your energy. Most people give their attention away to noise, messages, opinions, endless distraction. A Stoic asks, does this help me live better? If not, he ignores it. Silence is his filter, focus his weapon. At work, clarity means doing one thing fully instead of 10 things halfway. It's knowing the difference between movement and progress. Noise feels productive. Focus actually is. The Stoic does not chase urgency. He follows purpose. In relationships, clear thinking means listening before reacting. When someone offends you, pause. Ask yourself, is this about truth or about ego? Most conflict is not about what is said, but how pride responds to it. By seeing this, you end the war before it begins. In failure, clarity means learning instead of collapsing. Seneca wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." You will fail, but each failure refines you. The Stoic mind asks not, "Why me?" but "What can I learn?" And in success, clarity means humility. You remember that fortune is temporary, that praise is fickle, and that wisdom is eternal. You enjoy what you have, but you are not owned by it. That is the difference between freedom and dependence. Every part of life becomes training for the mind. Each challenge, each conversation, each quiet morning, all of it is practice in thinking clearly and living according to reason. The greatest obstacle to clear thinking is illusion. We rarely see the world as it is. We see it as we feel. Emotion paints reality with its own colors. And soon, the picture we believe is not truth but interpretation. The Stoics called this the opinion of the mind. They warned that what we think is reality often isn't. When you say, "This is terrible," you are not describing the event, only your judgment of it, and judgments can be changed. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. When you realize this, you begin to separate fact from feeling. Something happens. That is the fact. You label it good or bad. That is the feeling. Clarity begins when you stop confusing the two. Another illusion is control. People exhaust themselves trying to manage everything. Outcomes, opinions, the behavior of others. But clarity means surrendering what was never yours to command. You can direct your effort, not the result. Then comes the illusion of certainty. We want the future to be guaranteed before we act. But wisdom accepts uncertainty as part of life. The Stoic acts rightly, even when the outcome is unknown. Ego is another fog that blinds the mind. It whispers, "You are always right." But a clear mind asks, "What if I am wrong?" That question, humble and powerful, has saved more men than pride ever did. The Stoic learns to doubt his emotions, question his assumptions, and remain open to correction. He prefers truth over comfort, and by doing so, he sees the world not as he wishes it to be, but as it truly is. Clarity is not a gift, it is a skill. And like any skill, it strengthens through consistent practice. The Stoics had daily exercises to sharpen their minds, to clear the fog before the day began, and again before sleep. The first practice is journaling. Marcus Aurelius wrote his meditations not for others, but for himself. Each line was a mirror, a way to see his thoughts without illusion. Writing forces the mind to slow down. When you translate thoughts into words, they lose their chaos and gain structure. That structure becomes understanding. The second practice is reflection. Before making a decision, pause and ask, what would a wise man do here? Will I be proud of this choice tomorrow? This short moment of awareness saves years of regret. The Stoics believed that thinking before acting is not hesitation, it is strength. The third practice is negative visualization. Imagining loss before it happens. Seneca advised, think often about what could go wrong, not to fear it, but to accept it calmly if it comes. When you have rehearsed misfortune in your mind, real events cannot break you, they can only test you. And the final practice is evening review. Before sleep, recall your day. Where did you act wisely? Where did emotion rule you? This self-examination is not punishment. It is purification. You end each day wiser than you began it. Clarity grows through repetition. The more you examine your mind, the less it can deceive you. The Stoic doesn't wait for peace to arrive. He builds it, thought by thought, day by day. When the mind becomes clear, life itself changes shape. You no longer react, you respond. You no longer chase every emotion, you choose your direction. That is the essence of Stoic freedom, not the absence of chaos, but mastery within it. A clear mind is not empty, it is focused. It doesn't reject emotion, it understands it. It feels deeply, but decides wisely. The Stoic does not suppress life, he disciplines it. His calm is not weakness, it is power under control. True clarity reveals what truly matters. You stop seeking approval from others because you see how unstable their opinions are. You stop clinging to possessions because you understand how temporary they are. You stop fearing the future because you trust your reason to meet it. Marcus Aurelius once said, "A man's life is what his thoughts make of it." When your thoughts are clear, your life becomes clear. You act with precision, speak with honesty, and sleep without regret. Clarity transforms every part of existence. It simplifies what is complicated. It brings peace where there was tension and direction where there was doubt. Because once you rule your mind, nothing outside can rule you. The world remains the same, but your perception changes, and that changes everything. When you learn to think clearly, you become unshakable. The storms that once controlled you now only pass through you. You see life not as a series of threats, but as a series of choices, and every choice, guided by reason, builds your freedom. This is what the Stoics lived for: to rise above chaos, to live with purpose, to stay calm when others break, and to choose virtue over vanity, wisdom over noise. The path of clear thinking is not easy. It demands discipline, patience, and humility, but it gives something far greater in return: peace. Not the kind of peace the world gives and takes away, but the kind that lives inside you, unbothered by anything outside. If this message spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Help spread this truth to those still lost in confusion. Someone out there needs this reminder today. Subscribe, leave a comment, share your thoughts. Not for the algorithm, but for the community of those who seek clarity and strength. Your voice matters here. Together, we can build a world of calm minds and wise hearts. Thank you, truly, for being here. You are not just watching a video. You are walking the Stoic path, step by step. Be the one who remains calm in chaos. Be the one who acts with reason, not impulse. Be a true Stoic.